Bonnie, back with another video today. So today I was going to talk about the fear of not having enough money when we travel. I feel like that's the biggest thing that holds people back from traveling. Every time I talk to people and I tell them, hey, you should travel more, that's almost always the answer I get is that, I'd travel more if I had more money. And I felt like this was really important to do today because I personally feel like this is something that's stressing me out a little right now, so I decided I'd do this video because I can really understand the fear right now. So I have just planned my trip to Alaska. I bought the tickets about a week ago and I'll be flying out in about 5 weeks. I sat down and did my whole budget until I get my first paycheck in Alaska because that seemed like a good thing to do at the time. And then about 3 days after making that budget, a family who had asked me to babysit for almost a full week and requested me about a month in advance canceled last minute. So that has made a dramatic effect on my budget, and as a result I am a little bit stressed about money. So now I am kind of understanding the fear of money for travel a little more, and I feel like this is a good time for me to really talk about that because I can really understand right now. So the first thing you need to do is decide when and where you want to travel. Those two things are going to make a huge effect on how much it's going to cost. Certain places are more expensive, certain places are cheaper, but then it's also going to depend on the time of year when you travel. If you go to a place that's typically cheap but it happens to be their busy season, it's going to be more expensive, and likewise if you go to an expensive place and it's their busy season, it's going to be super expensive. So that's something you really have to plan accordingly. If you aren't too picky about where you're going, you could always just look at cheap flights with one of the flight search engines. I could link one below. And then you can always just find, hey, what's discounted next week or something like that if you just want to head out. That's always an option. But if you're looking for something more specific, you definitely want to keep in mind, okay, if I'm going to be going to a ski resort in the height of spring break, then you're going to have to expect to pay more. That's just life. So definitely keep things like that in mind, and then from there you can create a budget depending on how long are you going to be there and what should the expenses be every day. Next, you're going to want to look for cheap accommodations. The cheapest option would be to either stay with friends or family in the area if that's possible. I realize there's going to be plenty of places you go where that's not going to be possible. Another option, if you're not flying, is you could do #vanlife. It doesn't have to be something you live in forever. If you have a van with some room that you could stick, just a bed in, that would probably be enough for a 3-day vacation. So that would be an easy way to cut out a couple $100s of hotel fees. There's also hostels and cheap motels if you do need something. Or if you're traveling in the summer, or if you're going to a warmer climate, you could always consider camping. Just get a tent or an RV and just hang out at a campground, because that would also be pretty cheap. So that's something you have to consider, because that is going to be one of your biggest expenses, is going to be where are you sleeping at night. So definitely try to minimize that however possible, because that will make it more cost effective to travel. The next thing you're going to do is go to grocery stores rather than going out to restaurants. This is something I've really been thinking about for when I go to Anchorage. So when I get to Alaska, I am arriving 1 week before my job starts. My lease ends here May 1st. I decided I'm going to go visit some family, and then I'm going to arrive in Anchorage on May 13th, but my job doesn't start until May 20th. So I do have a 1 week time frame where I need to figure out accommodations and food. I have decided that I'm probably going to do things like sandwiches and cereal, just get a hotel room, nothing fancy, but something that either has a refrigerator, or I may even just invest in a cheap cooler because I plan on doing a lot of camping while I'm in Alaska anyways. So just think about what is the most cost-effective way that you can get not only accommodations but also food, because that is typically the second most expensive thing that you're going to pay for. Next, you're going to want to keep your souvenirs low, that way you have more money. So if you're already worried about money, you might not want to go buy, 3 t-shirts that say I love New York and, a snow globe with the Statue of Liberty. That doesn't mean you can't have any, but just really consider what you're buying, especially if you are already stressed about money. You don't want to go overboard on souvenirs. Another thing, if you are just really stressed about money and you still really want to travel, you can always do side hustles while you are traveling. You can babysit, you can pet sit, you can do temp employment. There's also the possibility that you can do seasonal work, which I have mentioned in other videos. So the reason I am going to Alaska, as I have mentioned, is because I have found a seasonal job there. From May 20th to the beginning or mid of September, I will be working. So while yes, I do have to pay to get there, I have to pay for that first week, as I've mentioned. After that, I'm just collecting money while I'm hanging out in Alaska, and I still get to explore, I still get to see all this stuff, and I have an income coming in. So that's a great way to do it. Seasonal jobs can be as short as 2 weeks or a month. They can be up to typically about 4 or 5 months is the extent of it. So it's nothing too long, it's a short-term commitment, but if you just really want to go somewhere, that could be a great way to see it. This summer I'm going to see both Alaska and the Grand Canyon doing that. I've also spent a few years at a ski resort doing that, and it's really great the places you can go and the people that you can meet. Another great tip is just in any way you can keep your expenses low, because the more, the less expenses you have, then the longer your money's gonna last you. So that could be any little thing. That could be, if you fill up on gas, make sure that you're going to the cheapest pump. If you're gonna buy food at the grocery store, maybe get the generic brand. Any little thing you can do to save a few dollars will really help you if you're already worried about money with travel. And if you have any more suggestions, make sure you leave them in that comment box below and hit that like and subscribe button. See you guys again soon.